Hi, I'm Roseanne Matero, and this is my EDL 852 Module 12 case study. Moving into the case, this occurred in Lightville Community School District. It is a very rural location. It has increasing enrollment and population growth. There was the decision to build a new school. Superintendent Rawlings agreed with the recommendation and urged the school board to support this decision. They approved this decision with a 4-1 vote. Voters approved this decision with a margin of 53% to 47%. A selection committee then chose the preferred candidate, Miss Susan Potter, to take over as principal for the new middle school. Miss Potter's employment began 12 months before the new school was slated to be open. Her duties before this opening involved in decision-making, staffing, and organizational decisions. Ms. Potter created a visioning and planning committee. The committee's first task was to construct a vision statement. The committee wanted Ms. Potter to take the lead and create the statement herself. The committee said that they would support her. Ms. Potter didn't agree with this protocol. She wanted a combined collaborative approach. After analyzing the facts in this case, the question arises, is there too much emphasis on creating a mission and vision statement before school? I personally believe that there is not. I think this is a good starting point and a foundation for the staff, school, and student body. They're gathering input from the community, and the community knows the shared values, commonalities, goals, and strengths of the school and the population. And they're pulling population of already existing clientele and students. So they're not recreating anything that's new to them. So this could easily be done through the combination of analyzing the prior school's vision and mission statements as well as their goals and pulling from them, and then analyzing the student body that this middle school would have. We also need to look at the community's expectations of administrators. Mrs. Burke is found in the case study stating the community respects administrators and rely on them to make important decisions. And that was her reasoning behind the need for Ms. Potter to simply create the vision statement she wanted, and they would back her. And I think that this is a common expectation the community has of administrators in general. It's expected that they make important decisions and yet appease all students and families. And they're supposed to know the well-being, the values, the needs of the community they serve. Then we look at the advantages and disadvantages of a new principal following the committee's wishes, like Ms. Burke and the advisory committee wanted. Both positive and negative opinions come from this action. You're unable to define yourself as a new principal and show your personal beliefs and leadership style. In my opinion, you immediately lose your credibility as a leader, and you may be seen as unorganized or doesn't have a plan. Going back to this case study, if we look at the ethical and legal issues, no legal issues were presented at this time. However, there were two ethical issues. The first issue was the lack of the appropriate creation of the goals, the mission, and the vision statement. Simply having one leader establish these things and then asking people to support it is not the ideal situation. And our second ethical situation was potential harassment or bullying from the advisory committee. My synthesized summary is this following. While the new middle school in a rural district was being built, the school's newly appointed principal developed an advisory committee to assist in the development of the school's goals, mission, and vision statements. However, she faced immediate controversy as the team wanted to simply follow her leadership and not participate in collaborative efforts. If we move into our synthesized facts, if we look at the people, we have Susan Potter, who was appointed as principal. She was previously an assistant principal in a suburban middle school. Opening the new middle school, she was employed 12 months before the school was scheduled to open. Joe Rawlings, he's the superintendent. The advisory committee, that was made up of 4 parents, 4 teachers, and Susan Potter herself. The committee was established as the Vision and Planning Committee. Helen Burke, she was an English and social studies teacher, and she was the advisory committee chair. Looking at these 4 people and their sources of power, Susan Power exerted positional power. She is the legitimate leader. Joe Rawlings, passive expert power. He's not directly involved with the conflict, but he does have power and experience if needed. The advisory committee as a whole, they exerted influence power. They were influenced by Helen. They're simply following their lead. And then Helen Burke also exerted positional power and personal power. She has authority and is seen as a leader in this committee. And then she also expressed her personal power because she does have rooted beliefs and values regarding this situation. If we look at the place, Lightville Community School District is a rural community with increasing enrollment. There were 2 schools within this district prior, an elementary and a junior-senior high school. This new middle school was built to alleviate space in these existing schools. The middle school, after it's being built, will house grades 6 through 8. It's the new facility within the district. And building a school was the most favorable and long-term solution for the school district at this time. The program is assumed to be a public school in a rural community with many farming families. There's currently 1,200 students within this district. Enrollment is increasing about 2% each year. The families moving in have many school-age children. The district will now have 3 schools, an elementary school, which will serve grades K through 5, a middle school, grades 6 through 8, and then the high school, grades 9 through 12. It appears that this community, school board, and staff are all very involved in this community. If we looked at the prioritized information, the stakeholders in this case, the administration, the staff of the new school, the advisory committee, the school board, and the community, the impacts. Tension could arise between stakeholders. It could impact the community and staff buy-in depending on how Ms. Potter and the advisory committee proceed. The advisory committee kept saying that they know Ms. Potter is a visionary leader, and so how she handles this is going to dictate their outlook and their vision of a visionary leader. And then depending on the outcome of this situation, it could potentially rift relationships as well. Consultation. Appropriate stakeholders must be addressed and included in this decision. If we move into the decision, a decision on how to proceed can be made after collecting and communicating necessary information, consulting with appropriate stakeholders, and careful analysis of all situations. I identified 4 possible options. Our first option, you can follow the lead of the advisory committee. B, you could call a staff meeting with your current hire and current staff. The middle school is almost staffed. So this is a situation where, it'd be a different timeline, but it is a possibility, and you could create the statements utilizing your school staff. The third option would be at the next advisory committee to present an explanation and purpose of collaborative efforts. And finally, you could survey the stakeholders and create the statements from there. The fourth option discussed utilizing stakeholder surveys in the data. So why is it important to use data while planning vision and school goals? You can have a better understanding of what the majority believes and values. There's different perspectives and voices that are heard, and a survey can reach those the most. You're able to analyze patterns and commonalities. You can grasp the overall desire of the community that you are serving. And then it also provides a foundation for the decisions you have made. You can refer to that data. Moving into our possible consequences with these 4 options. Our first option, you could lose credibility as a leader following the committee without putting up a fight or following your gut instinct and your leadership style. You would appease the advisory committee and community members, possibly, and the statements would be completed because you, as the principal, would be completing them. The second option would be more of a collaborative approach. It would be a good foundation for a collaborative staff culture. It may not be completed by the superintendent's expectation because this could potentially be a little longer gathering everybody since they still are working right now, since it's a year out. And some staff members might not be included because you aren't fully staffed yet. The third option would look at, what the committee would say after the information was presented. So they could change their mind. They would gain information and you would educate them. And then you might have a better buy-in with the committee after expressing all of this information. And then lastly, by surveying the stakeholders and developing statements, you would get input from everybody, from stakeholders, and then you would still be able to develop the statements as needed. If we evaluate these options further in depth, the pro of the first option, you would appease the committee and community. Your statement would get written and completed. The con is obviously the lack of collaboration, loss of credibility, and it's not true to your leadership style. Moving into the second option, the pros are staff collaboration and school ownership. The con is the deadline, as stated. Staff is not complete. The advisory committee would not necessarily have input at this time, and then it would kind of lead you to say, what is the purpose of the advisory committee? If we look at option C, the pros are to inform and educate about collaborative efforts. You could potentially change the majority's stance. The con is that you might not change their minds. They might still stick to what they want that you to do the work. And then you would feel defeated and back in our original position. In the last option, the pros, you would gather input from the stakeholders, promote diversity, collaboration, and utilize data. The con is, again, it may take a little longer, and some stakeholders may miss communication, depending on if lacking updated information or if they miss a deadline. The best option would be a combination of both C and D. I feel that it's necessary for you as the principal to prepare a presentation for the advisory committee at your next meeting. You would educate them on your leadership style. What is a visionary leader? You would inform them the importance of collaboration and why you're pressing this issue so much. And you would provide them information on what purpose and impact mission and vision statements and goal setting does to a school's culture, a school's student body, and a school's direction. And then option D, hopefully that they would understand your perspective after educating them, and they would be willing to create a survey for stakeholders to complete with you. The advisory committee would then use this information after completion of the surveys to create the goals and statements together. And what that would look like implementing it. So first, you would prepare a presentation for your second meeting. In that presentation, you would include what a visionary leader is. You focus on collaboration, you're strategic and open-minded, you're goal-oriented and organized. You would also explain what collaboration does, that it promotes healthy relationships, It allows you to have a common goal. It allows you to be efficient because you share these responsibilities. And then lastly, educating them on the purpose of a mission and vision statement. You establish these to provide purpose for your school, to drive action of your school, and identify the strengths and values of the community you serve. After you educate them on that, you would ask them for input. Hopefully, they would be on board and understand your approach, and you could proceed to step 4, which is creating the surveys for basis of the team's decision. So then you would work with the advisory committee to create a survey to send out to the stakeholders for insight on values, goals, skills, and strengths. There's many different ways to go about this, utilizing the information you have right now on parents, community members, students. You can either email these surveys out. I know there's like text surveys now. There's many apps and applications you can utilize to promote that technology and digital citizenship. And then you would create statements with the community using this data and then turn them to seek board approval. And these are my references for this case study. Thank you.